All right. Hey, everybody. I am super excited about this episode. We are going to be going over A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, and I am pumped. This was a five-star read for sure. I loved every second of this book. Before we jump into it, I'd like to thank everybody for subscribing and liking and commenting. Man, I just started this channel and I just hit 20 subscribers, which doesn't sound like a lot, but man, it's more than I expected, and I really appreciate your views. And I'd like to give a special shout out to one of my favorite YouTubers, Ian Gubelli. I'll put him down in the description so you can give him a follow. He gave me a follow and been commenting on my videos, which I thought was super cool because me and my wife have been watching him for a while, and I just thought that was awesome. So I hope you all stayed warm this weekend. I hope everybody, cuddled up on the couch, read their favorite books. If you're ready, we'll get into this thing. As per usual, I'll start off. I loved the way this one started off. It kind of, at the end of the last one, it was really down in the dumps. She had just uh, had to go through all the trials and tribulations of Amarantha. And after she was defeated, everything seems like it was on the up and up. She got out of there, back to the spring court, which is where this one picks up. It kind of picks up with her going through all the PTSD and anxiety and stress of what she had to go through. Uh, that is what I liked the most about this book was kind of how Sarah handled the PTSD aspect of it. I thought it was really cool, the night terrors, the vomiting, how even the main protagonist, this badass, is going through all these struggles that normal people go through. And man, she had to have been really going through it because not only did she have to go through everything at the end of the trials, but now she is, spoiler alert, she got turned into a fey. So she's in a new body. And then it turns out all these tears they gave Feyre combined and end up giving her all these like powers of every single court. So she's dealing with that, how to handle that. And now she's getting ready for a wedding with Tamlin. So that was crazy. Uh, that's where this one gets really interesting. They're about to get married, and she's kind of panicking, going through her inner dialogue of whether or not she wants to do this, and starts, mentally screaming that she doesn't want to do it. And Rhys hears it through this tattoo that he gave her and shows up and takes her to the night court. Because if you remember at the end of the last book, she had made a deal with him where she has to spend 1 week with him out of the month. And so he calls in the favor or the debt, takes her there. She's understandably terrified. This night court guy she's heard all these villainous things about is taking her to his court. And she gets there and it's beautiful. She's in this awesome nighttime court where her room seems to be like an open like in the mountains where she can just see everything, but some sort of magic's keeping it like warm and windy. But uh, it just seems awesome. I mean, the way that Sarah described this room and this court and everything that's being seen, it sounds beautiful. It was by far better than the spring court. I thought I would much rather be in the night court from what I read. It sounded like right up my alley. Um, Around this time, Rhys also kind of pulls a Harry Potter and starts training her how to defend against mental attacks. If you remember the scene with like Snape where he's sitting there like tormenting him. Uh, he's not quite as harsh, but he starts teaching her how to like defend against these powers that he has, while at the same time teaching her to read, which I thought was super cool. I thought it was very interesting that the main protagonist has such a simple weakness, just not being able to read. Reese to kind of start spitting game at her, I guess. He starts like making her write things like Reese is gorgeous or most handsome Faye, and just being kind of his snide, jerkish self, while at the same time they start building chemistry, which was interesting because she just left Tamlin, who was being super, since everything under the mountain, he becomes really overprotective. Uh, he becomes really paranoid and starts like very controlling, keeps her locked up for her own good or for her own safety. And she wants to be out, be doing what, fairies are supposed to do out there, running around. Okay. So, also in this book, we are introduced to Moore, who is Rhys's cousin, who ended up being one of my top three favorite characters so far. She's awesome. And then you're also introduced to his like gang. You got Cassian, Azriel, and Amren. Uh, this was way better than the Springport Court, in my opinion. The Spring Court was cool. I gave that book 4 stars. I thought it was awesome. This is more up my alley. Them being in the Night Court and everybody being kind of asshole-ish, and like it seems like they're a lot more overpowered. You got Azrael, who's like this shadow daddy. He's just sneaking around, knifing people. Then you've got Cassian, who's this huge, loyal soldier. He's leading armies. You have Amren, who's like this god trapped in an elf body. And then you've got Moore, who also leads armies. She's also a huge badass. It almost seems like they're too overpowered, like a group of just 5 of the hardest people in all the courts happen to be best friends. After that, we get to see the Summer Court at one point, which is another huge thing I loved about this book, to get to see another court and meet Tarquin, who is the leader of this court. And the vibes for this one were really cool. It was kind of like, I pictured like cobblestone streets on the side of the ocean and all these pretty just villas going down the way. He's super laid back. Matter of fact, at one point, Feyre even states that she could see herself with Tarquin in another life. And so they're there to kind of like seek out this secret object. And she actually starts feeling bad about it because she gets to know him and he's a cool guy. And I thought it was a really interesting story. Okay, so at this part in the book, Feyre finds out from the Suriel, who is awesome. He's one of my favorite characters, that she is mated to Rhys. And she handled it a little bit like gets mad at him. He's severely injured, and she starts like going in on him. I found this very interesting because her whole shtick is that she wants to be able to make decisions for herself and be independent, and he let her form her opinions before letting her know, so that she actually started catching feelings for him and wasn't feeling like that she was forced to. Uh, I don't know. I feel like she would have been a lot more mad if he would have told her from the get go, and she would have like really pushed against it. I liked that Rhys let her build her own opinions of him before letting her know that they were mates. Either way, I thought it brought another side to Rhys that I thought was mad props to him for putting up with Tamlin for this long, knowing that he was with his mate, and the way he was, not even the way he was treating her, even if he was treating her good, just the fact that she was with him had to have been brutal, especially while he's under the mountain. And just mad props to him for being able to put up with it. Then we find out good old Tamlin, going along with him being overprotective and kind of like learning more about his character and his downfalls, he ends up selling out the Night Court, really everybody, to the main villain in this book, who is the King of Hybrid, which is who Amarantha was working for. And this is where it gets crazy. Feyre ends up having to go to where the King of Hybrid is and trying to retrieve the cauldron. And it turns out the King of Hybrid was expecting it because of Tamlin, And not only that, he has captured her sisters, Nesta and Elaine, and ends up turning them into Fae as well with the cauldron, which I didn't even know was possible, but apparently within the last year, everybody can just turn Fae. So I thought that was kind of a weird plot twist. Yeah, that's a quick rundown of this book. It was super neat. If you're into dark and nighttime, and this love triangle starts, she starts leaning towards the morally gray character, you're going to really love this book. I hope I did that justice. Just like in the last book, I was going to read one of my favorite verses from the book, and just give you kind of a vibe for it. And this is Amren and Feyre are talking. But I forgot to tell him. He thinks he'll be remembered as the villain in the story, she snorted. But I forgot to tell him, I said quietly, opening the door, that the villain is usually the person who locks up the maiden and throws away the key. Oh? I shrugged. He was the one who let me out. It was some good feels in this book. Her and Rhys are a pretty cool couple, and I'm all for it. I am super excited for the next book to see what happens. Very curious to see what happens with the King of Hybern, and I hope I did this book justice. And if you enjoyed it, drop a like, a comment, subscribe. If you have any advice on what I could do to the videos, feel free to chime in the comments, and I'll try and do my best to make the videos better. Y'all have a great week, and I'm going to do the next book on the next video. Y'all have a great one.